guest on the What Is Up podcast is an old-school Wapsie Valley farm boy from way back. So if your kids want to pick rock, get paid, and get fed, he's your man. This guy also raises some of the absolute best beef around. Mike Buenzow was a multi-sport athlete in high school who knows a good work ethic is the key to success. Playing baseball after a day of baling hay was just a part of life for him growing up. How about wrestling in the wrestling room back in '72 with the thermostat turned up to 105 degrees? Interesting. But hey, I guess it's better than wrestling with your sins while sweating in church. Whoa, didn't see that coming, did ya? No pain, no gain, says the school of hard knocks that Mike got his degree from. But nothing prepared him for having one more kid so late in life. Mike is one of the busiest retired guys around, and one of the best guys around if you ask Bubba. Here's your host, and one of the guys Mike loves to talk sports with, Bubba Seaman.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? You are in the right place. By the time this episode airs, we'll be past the 1-year mark, and this thing just keeps growing. And that is thanks to all of you. Well, I've always said, if God ain't behind it, then it doesn't mean anything, and I want him to do something with it. But really, it is to you guys. Our success in large part is due to you actually liking what we're trying to do here. Following, subscribing, leaving 5-star reviews on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Clicking that notification bell so you get notified every time we drop a new episode. I always try and drop on Friday mornings, but there's been a couple weeks in the last year that didn't happen. So if you click that little bell, that's what it's there for. It's going to send you basically a little text message. We call them notifications, and it's going to let you know that What Is Up podcast just released a new episode. And you guys have been doing that. So our views keep going up. We get new followers on our social media every day, and that really encourages me. I've got people from time to time like Skylar Plaster and Paul Runquist, a couple young guys reaching out to me and just offering their support, letting me know that what we're trying to do here is encouraging them. And that's the goal, to encourage people, to let them share their experiences, their opinions, maybe to think critically about why the world is the way it is, and is there a better way to do things, like what really matters in life. Maybe think about that. That's the kind of questions we try to answer on the What Is Up podcast. And I'm filling preaching again next Sunday. Not that the dates mean anything by the time we're recording this on Saturday towards the end of August. This ain't going to come out till September. But I'm actually preaching on that topic next Sunday. You want a sneak peek? This is what Jesus said. He said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth where moth and rust destroy, or where thieves break in and steal, but store up treasures in heaven." Guys, the things of this world are temporary. All the good things and the bad things is temporary. And spoiler alert, the Egyptians, they got it wrong. You can be buried with all your stuff if you want to, but you can't take it with you. If you want more of that, you can join me August 25th at FBC Dunkerton, which will already be passed by the time this airs. But you can always go back and watch it on our Facebook page. People say, I'm not good at many things, but they say preaching might be one of them. I don't know. You be the judge. Let me know what you think. Let's get to today's guest, shall we? This guy was one of the first people that I asked to come on the podcast last year when we started, and he kept turning me down. Fast forward, now he's retired. His wife leaves town for the weekend, and he just texts me out of the blue, "Hey, let's do this. Let's do the podcast." So I stopped over there. We helped pick out his segments. We got his outline going for the episode, and this is what you're about to hear. Today's guest is an old-school Wapsie Valley farm boy from way back who prides himself in raising the best beef in northeast Iowa. And he was smart enough to get out of the dairy farm business just in time, but he still managed to milk the clock at Lifeline just the same. In his younger days, he was a stellar yet humble, hard-working athlete. Whether it was on the football field, the ball diamond, or the wrestling mat, it didn't matter. Those days are long gone now, and so are his original knees, but his opinions are as strong as ever. Mike Buenzow, what is up, man?
Thanks for having me, Bubba.
Oh, I'm glad you finally accepted. You were one of the original guys, I thought, oh, this would be a fun episode. Mike's got opinions. He would come on, and it was just never the right time until now.
Yeah, exactly. My wife left to go to the state of Washington, and it's not just because of that, but being retired.
Yeah, freed up some time.
Freed up some time. I have problem trying to find something to keep me busy.
Right.
I'm not a guy that can sit in the house,
Yep.
and I got to find something to do.
Right.
So I thought, Saturday, the weather's crappy out, which I didn't know that, but it is crappy out.
Yeah, it's kind of dreary out.
Yeah. And so I decided to come on. So let's get things rolling here.
Oh, boy. So when I first came to Lifeline, Mike was one of the first guys I met. I actually I started working with them because they hadn't turned my machine on yet. They were just firing up this big CNC router, and they didn't have an operator, and they hired me to run it, but it wasn't quite ready yet. So I actually spent like my first week or so at Lifeline working with you in chassis prep, and I quickly realized out of everyone in the metal shop, you were like the only guy I could talk sports with.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was weird to me because coming from Omega, all of us, we all did fantasy football together. And then I get here and it's like none of these guys, but this one guy who I keep hearing is about to retire. When he leaves, what am I going to talk about? Like, what am I going to do? But yeah, I noticed you were always supportive of Wapsie students and athletes and programs, and what you were always asking about this or asking if my kids had heard certain things about whatever sports they were in, or you were always asking about that. You were always interested, always supportive. And, over the years, then I kind of got to learn, like, yeah, you guys go to everything. You and Barney and the guy, they all, you go to these events, you support the football players, the wrestlers, the baseball player, all that stuff. And that's good stuff.
Well, yeah, I love my school. So
there you go.
And my wife and I, she wasn't an athlete, but over the years, our kids got involved with the sports and stuff, and so I kind of would drag her along.
Yeah,
I played men's slow pitch softball for oh my goodness, I was probably 44 years old when I quit. Oh, so I started when I was 18 years old, out of school.
Yeah,
played for a church league.
Yeah. When
I started at Buck Creek Church there, and then I played men's fast pitch for a couple years, then got into slow pitch. Actually, Rick Van Dale was a classmate of mine.
Okay.
He stopped by one day. I was milking cows, and he goes, are you interested in playing men's slow pitch? I go, yeah, sure, So he got up a team, and different guys, and some of them I have never knew before. Mm-hmm. And over the years, we just got to be one big happy family.
Yeah,
because that's all we did. And
you're traveling every weekend, going to tournaments and stuff.
Yeah. So all our kids grew up together.
Yeah.
So basically, when we went to a tournament or played in league, we wouldn't see the kids till it was time to go home.
Yeah, because they were off playing with each other.
Yeah, they were out playing on another diamond somewhere playing ball.
They call that the good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I had it in my notes to make sure to bring up softball. Man, we just watched a tournament here in Fairbank we watched one game of one tournament, and I'm telling Sarah and Bridget, I was like, I think I could still play. I know I can. I get it, I'm 43, but I was watching those guys play slow pitch. Right. Fast pitch, my hat's off to you guys that did fast pitch. I don't think I could do it. Yeah. But you also played baseball.
Right.
I didn't play high school baseball, so I know I couldn't hit them. I mean, no.
Right. And I was a catcher in high school baseball, so I ended up being a catcher in slow pitch softball, which, it's basically the same, but you don't have any equipment when you're playing slow pitch or fast pitch softball, so the catcher gets beat up a lot.
Oh man. Yeah. I couldn't imagine.
So it was fun. But it only lasted for 2 years, and then, we started having a family and playing fast pitch and slow pitch and milking cows and farming.
Too much?
Too much. I had to give up something.
Yeah.
So we just went to slow pitch softball, and then pretty soon fast pitch died out,
Yeah.
But
yeah. Fast pitch, slow pitch is where it's at. Every high school athlete should transition into slow pitch softball after high school. You got to do something.
Right, yeah.
But, I definitely wanted to bring that up. Maybe I'll bring that up in a little bit, too. But, Something else I noticed was you and Deb still hire boys to come out and pick up rock, and instead of just paying them, you also feed them, and you feed them well. You know what I mean? Deb makes, even when we were doing tree work out, you took down a tree, you said, hey, I need a couple extra hands, so me and JJ go out there. Feeding the help well is probably worth more than, whatever, $10 an hour, $15 an hour.
Right. And that's the way I was brought up,
Right.
Because I worked at the co-op in Reeler out of high school, and I would drive grain truck, and then you go out to the sheller, which a lot of people don't even know what that is.
No,
but,
I don't.
The farmers would pick ear corn, then in the summertime you would shell it off.
Okay.
So you had a guy come in with a portable sheller, and
You're saying take the husk off or take the corn off the cob?
Take the kernel corn off the cob.
Okay.
Then I would be there with the truck and haul it to town.
Okay.
Well, anyway, so a lot of places you would go to, they would shut down at noon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, absolutely, we're shutting down, and you eat lunch. And
Okay.
I mean, lunch back then was called dinner.
Right. Oh, here we go. Here's the debate.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so how come it's dinner, supper? How come it's not lunch, dinner? How come you bring your lunch pail to work and you don't call it dinner pail?
Correct.
And it's like, okay, well, you can call it whatever you want, but when we eat supper is at night.
Okay. Yep, I'm with you.
And a lot of city folks are, okay, we're going to go out for dinner.
Yep.
All right, what time is dinner? Dinner in my house is 12 o'clock.
Oh, man.
Dinner here, the city slickers, I call them the city slickers, their dinner is 6 or 7.
Right.
So
we went round and round at work about this before, and everyone falls into different categories in the argument. It's you go to school, you have lunch at school, so lunch is the middle of the day. But when you say you grew up on a farm, your biggest meal is in the middle of the day. It's got to keep you going, the rest of the day. So that's your dinner.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the city people, when you grow up in public school and in the city, lunch is noon, dinner is evening. Period. Supper is also dinner, I guess. It's the same.
Well,
but farm life is just, it's different.
It's different.
It's different.
It's different.
I get
Yeah. Yeah. So, and get back to the sports thing, back at Lifeline, I would ask all the other guys in medals about sports, and they're just like a stick in the mud.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then when you came on board, it's like, damn, I got somebody I can talk to, I can relate to this guy.
Yeah.
So, it was really great.
It's refreshing.
Yeah.
That's me. I get along with the oldest guy in the shop, not people my own age. That's fine. It worked out good. Okay, let's get into some stuff. Let's go back. For everyone around here knows you, but for the few listeners, because we keep growing. After the B-Secker episode, we had a lot of new followers, a lot of new listeners. So there might be people who actually never heard of Mike Buenzow or anything like that. So just tell us what your life is like right now. Your age, wife, kids, kind of hobbies, interests right now. Just kind of short answer. What does life look like for you right now?
Well, I'm 70 years old. And
wow, that's crazy. You don't move like a 70-year-old.
That's because I take some Tylenol arthritis painkillers to keep me going because I'm not one to sit around.
Right.
If I sit around, it's painful getting up and moving. But once I get going, I'm fine. So I usually go outside. Cold weather sucks.
Not good for you.
Not good. But anyway, so I'm retired.
How long ago did you retire?
I just retired July 1st. It was my birthday, and I retired on my birthday. Been telling my wife for over a year, I'm going to retire. I want to retire. I want to slow down.
Getting close.
Yeah, so I finally pulled the string, and she goes, well, how are we going to afford that? I go, you know what? Money's not everything.
Right.
My health is a lot now because, stress being on a day job.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be surprised how much more, what do I want to say? My physical health is improved greatly since I quit working.
Yeah.
So
because of the physical and the mental side of it, you feel
just
better?
The stress side.
Yep.
And not working on concrete. Concrete for me, walking on concrete hurts constantly.
Yeah. So listeners, imagine this. He's 70 now. There were talks of retirement when I started at Lifeline 6 years ago. This guy's going to retire any day now, any year now, whatever. We got to find somebody to fill his spot. And the guy is still rolling around on concrete, modifying chassis for the best ambulances in the country. And then you kind of stepped it down to part-time the last couple of years.
Yeah.
3 days a week. Still
Right.
full-time 3 days a week.
Right.
9-hour days. And doing a little bit of farming on the side. And raising
Right.
cattle. Like, now you're retired, but holy cow, man, that's at 70.
Yeah, and I started driving semi for my cousin last fall, which I've always enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
Now I really enjoy doing it.
Sure.
So now, since I'm retired, and he needs some extra help because his wife really wants to slow down a little
Okay.
bit. I mean, they're not as old as we are, but she wants to slow down. So now he came and threw an offer at me where if I help him, he'll do my combine and all that
Okay.
stuff. So it's working out. It's a win-win for both of us.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because I only live a half a mile away from him. So when it's time to get going, we're ready to go.
Wow.
And his wife has always said, she goes, well, it's a good thing you're here because you just keep prodding him all the time to keep going.
Keep moving.
Yeah, so, and you know as well as I do at work, when we get something going, we're going to get it done.
Yep.
We're not just lollygagging around here.
No.
You know, so, and you guys have the best product out there, and I do the best job I can for what I was doing for prepping chassis.
Right.
And you know as well as I do, when those chassis left, they were spot on correct.
Yep. They were.
So,
Yeah. And you trained Bryce really good, too. I was, every time I'd peek over there or whatever, or watch him, he was to the point where he wasn't even thinking about doing it. I mean, he would put them holes dead on.
Right.
It's a good product. If any of our listeners looking at buying an ambulance, if you're on your volunteer local department, it's the best in the country for sure. But you also took pride in the beef. I remember I was going to try and buy some beef from you one year, and you told me, okay, this is about how much it costs. And I go, okay, so half of a half. Can I split that half of a half with somebody? And you said, yeah, that can be done. Line it up. And so we get our meat back and everything. And you said Deb was asking for you to ask me, how did the marbling look? And how, like, you guys were genuinely interested in knowing, okay, we raised this beef. We want to know, what did our consumers think of it?
Right, because, I've raised cattle my whole life.
Yep.
But back in the early days, my folks always raised Holstein beef.
Okay.
And so when I quit milking, which I milked for 25 years, and my knees were so bad I couldn't hardly do it anymore, so we decided to get out of that. And then we had 30 acres of permanent pasture. And so that winter, my wife goes, maybe we should think about getting some stock cows and getting down there because keep the weeds down. I like to make it keep looking nice, Yeah. And so we bought 20 head of stock cows, and the rest is history. And so we started raising beef for our kids, which we always give our kids meat all the time, because that's what parents do,
Sure.
Anyway, so then I started keeping back a couple more, and I always had extra to start selling to the public.
Sure.
And I always want to know how good the product is.
Right.
I'm not going to sell something if the customer's not satisfied.
Right.
So then I get all this feedback, from my buddy Barney.
Okay.
He goes, yep, it's Buenzow beef. It's the best there is.
Oh, there we go.
And
That boy, Barney.
I go, I don't know about that. But I also had another cattle producer's son. We had a barbecue because I was always on the chain gang.
Okay.
So, at Wapsie Valley. Well, I kind of retired from that. I fill in if somebody can't make it. But we had a little barbecue at Barney's here a couple years ago, and I furnished the beef.
Okay.
And they kept saying, gee, this is some of the best beef I've ever tasted. So I'm going,
wow.
well, I kind of take pride in what I'm doing. I don't push my beef. I feed them all natural. May take a little longer, but that's where you get the marbling in the meat.
Nice. Oh, the dogs are all excited about it, for sure. That's every episode. So that's a good look at who Mike is, what life's like for him now, stuff like that. You're always looking for something to do. That's the thing. I asked you to make a cutting board, or you said I can make a cutting board or whatever, and you make this behemoth of a cutting board that I can put 2 pork butts and a brisket and sides on it. It's like, I'm never going to need you to make another one. Like, you do it that well, you're going to work yourself out of business.
Well,
but,
people ask me to do things, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest man in the world, but you show me a picture,
you'll figure it out.
and I'll figure something out.
Yeah. And so that's your old, what would you call that? Your barn. What do you call that? Your old milking barn? That's your wood shop.
Yeah, my barn is my wood shop where I just set my power tools up down the walkway, and my milk house is the final.
It's something to see, guys. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
You walk in there.
And I build a table in the milk house, so I got a place to do the sanding and the finish work. But there's one catch to this whole thing. If I make something, or if people ask me to make something, I always have to go get the okay from Deb, because she's the one that stains and puts the varnish on.
Oh, okay.
I'm not allowed to do that. So she's involved with a lot of the things that I make.
Okay.
So like your cutting board, she had nothing to do with that. But
yeah, because that was raw, and then you told me get the mineral oil and,
exactly.
and the wax and that stuff.
But if it needs a finished product, she's
the finisher.
She's the finisher.
Okay. Hey, that's me and Sarah work together on this podcast. She does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people never see or whatever. It's good to be. Sometimes it can be good and character building to be involved with your spouse on a venture.
Well, actually, how this got all started was my wife wanted some stuff made. First thing I said, well, honey, if I need power tools to make this stuff, it's going to cost us some money to get started.
Some investment.
Yeah. So one thing led to another, and when I needed something, I would go out and get it.
Okay.
So, and my biggest project in the years past was making a dining room table for my son and daughter-in-law.
Okay.
And I took some old doors and tore them apart and built this wood table and bench out of it. And it was a puzzle. It took me a couple months to get it all put together and get it glued. And
you got pictures of that?
Yeah.
Well, you don't got to show me now, but I'm going to include that in your slideshow. So as people are listening, they can see that.
Yeah, that was a huge undertaking for us to do. And then my wife, she gave it like 7 coats of varnish to make it hard.
Yeah.
And for the finished product.
Yeah. So there's no damage in the wood.
Exactly. Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, that was a big undertaking for me to do, but you know what? I got it done. So
there you go.
There'd be a lot of mornings I'd get up at 3:30 in the morning before I'd go to work and go out to. This was done in the garage. Let me tell you, it wasn't done in the barn at that time.
Okay.
And so I would get up in the morning and glue things together, and then go to work.
Okay.
And then come home, and then it should be dry enough where I could take it apart and start something else.
I see.
So,
I see. All right. Well, let's talk about where that work ethic came from. Let's go back to your childhood, growing up on the farm. Let's get into your story and stuff like that. Let's go way back. Share as much as you want. Keep as much as you want to yourself. But what was it like?
Well, growing up on a dairy farm, we raised pigs and chickens at that time.
Okay.
And my mom had the chickens, and we raised butcher chickens back in the day.
Boy.
Yeah, one year we had like 750. They call them not laying hens, but they were a big fat chicken.
Okay.
Broilers is what they call them. That's what I'm looking for. Anyway, and we had 750 of those at one time, and we sold every one of them.
But you got to kill them first?
We kill them,
clean them, and all.
Clean them. Yeah, we'd sit there on a hay rack and pull the feathers, and then the ladies would do the finished product downstairs. Clean them.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a lot of chickens.
Yeah, so we grew up on the dairy farm. I had a brother. He was 2 years older, which he now has passed away.
Okay.
It's been a long time. I think he was 54 years old when he died.
Oh man.
Yeah, he had renal cell cancer, and that's not good. Anyway, so we grew up in a dairy farm. We always had chores to do.
Yep.
And even when we were in high school, we had chores to do before we went to school. We had to get up and do chores. And then when you got home after practice, you had to get your chores done.
Man.
And
that's something I've always admired about the farming community. I heard the Kleitch boys one time I can't remember where we were standing. I think we were at like a junior high game when they were younger. And one of them, Brock or Brody, I overheard them ask their mom if they could go fishing later. And she said, yeah, when we get home and you get your chores done, you can go fishing. And it's like, that was a treat to them. They knew they had to do the chores. The reward was I get to go fishing. And it's just, sometimes us city slickers, as you call us, we don't take the time to realize what a farm kid goes through. Like, they've already done X amount of work before they even get to school.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not really when we were younger, obviously. We didn't have to. We always had chores to do when we got home.
Right. You didn't get to come home and go play with the neighbor kids because you're out in the rural area.
Right.
And you got chores to do.
Right.
Whereas me, it was always I could do whatever I want when I got home.
Yeah. So in the summertime, usually, when we were growing up, we always had rock to pick up, which is never ending. You can ask JJ that. And when we got older, we baled a lot of hay.
Yep.
So when I started getting in high school and being able to drive, I worked at a turkey farm, Werner's Turkey Farm it was called, which was only 2 miles away. I worked there in the summertime and after practices and stuff like that because I'd always have to do my chores at home first, though,
Okay, yeah.
So I worked there for a couple of years, and then when I got out of school, I started working at the Reedland Co-op in Reedland.
Okay.
And starting wage was $2.05.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
That's going back.
Yeah, so you worked 50 hours there or whatever. I was in the fertilizer department and the spraying department. And then when you got done with there, you would go home and have to do your chores because I lived at home at that time.
Yeah.
And I always remember back in the day when you get off work at 5 o'clock, happy hour uptown was from 5 to 6. And there were several times when my mom would call and want to know when I was going to get home.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So then we get to the high school years and
yeah. Let's talk high school sports and stuff like that. What was?
Oh well,
so you played everything.
Right. I was out for football and I wrestled and baseball. Which baseball back in those days you had spring ball and you had summer ball.
Okay.
Because Wapsie Valley never had track.
Okay.
Until I was a senior, then they started track, but I was already involved in baseball. So I did that for 4 years. In football, I started varsity when I was a sophomore because we didn't have anybody. We had a whole sophomore line back in the day, and we weren't very big kids. We were only 155, 60 pounds.
Wow.
And, and we'd get thrashed because we weren't very big. But you know what? We were farm kids. And
tough farm kids.
Worth ethic goes a long way back in the day.
Yeah.
So then, and then I went out for wrestling, which I had never done in my life till I was a freshman. And a couple of weeks into wrestling, I'm going, oh my, what did I get myself into,
Yeah.
And baseball, I've always loved baseball.
Okay.
I've played baseball my whole life. So growing up in high school, then finally our junior and senior year, we were pretty decent. But then our senior year...
What years are we talking about here?
Okay, so our sophomore year would be 71.
Okay.
So I graduated in 72. So the fall of 71 was my senior year in football.
Gotcha.
So, so Coach Southmaid was our coach. And...
Was he new at the time?
No, he had been there my sophomore year. And when I was a sophomore is when he first came to Wapsie Valley.
So still pretty new.
Pretty new,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he takes 3 of the linemen and puts us in the backfield. It's like, oh my goodness,
How's this going to work out?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we obviously don't have much speed, but we can pound the ball up the middle all day long and nobody can stop us. But we were 2-6. But we were in every game.
Gotcha. Yeah.
In the first half.
Yeah.
We were in every ball game we played. We ran out of.
Couldn't finish it.
We couldn't finish it because everybody had to play both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as I do, growing up in football especially, you need a break once in a while in between. Well, we couldn't. We just didn't have the people.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to not come off the field.
Right.
Few kids do it. Few kids should do it, period. I mean, my goodness, you can play at a higher level if you can do it. But yeah, to be physically able to be out there the whole game. That's tough.
But you had to be in shape.
Yep.
You know, that's just the name of the game.
That's right.
So then you get into the winter and wrestling, and you know, you never made the varsity lineup unless you was really an outstanding wrestler, because we had 50, 60 kids out for wrestling.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's a lot of competition.
Right, you know, and if you've ever been out to the high school and look at the wrestling room, the wrestling room was half that size back in my day.
How'd you fit that many kids in a room?
Well, the freshmen had to go in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And then whatever, you know, that's
Gotcha.
just the way it was. But you had 45, 50 kids in that wrestling room, and it's cranked up to like 105 degrees. Yeah, it's hot in there.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, and I succeeded in wrestling mainly because of Coach Weaver.
Okay. Shout out Coach Weaver.
Yeah,
nice.
He's probably one of my best friends, and he still is. I keep in contact with him all the time.
How much older is he than you?
Well, see, he's probably 10 years older than I am.
Okay.
But he's the one that motivated me to succeed in whatever I do.
Okay.
Whatever I do.
Nice.
Yeah, so I have to give a shout out to Coach Weaver.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Our junior year in wrestling, we were under 500. I can remember this to the day we was at South Winneshiek wrestling and we got beat. He comes in the wrestling room. He goes, "You kids have to keep at this," because we had, 12 or 13 of us were like a little family.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to get at is our senior year, we went 8-5. So we turned the corner back our senior year.
Yeah.
And we had, out of 12 weight classes, we had 11 seniors. So we were one big happy family.
Yeah.
And to this day, this is where I'm telling everybody, our class of 72 is what turned this program around.
Okay.
So
I can see that. Sure. Sure.
And it was just wrestling. Football, you got to have the bodies out there to do it. And, but baseball is just completely different. I mean, I played baseball for my whole life.
Yeah.
So the more you play, the better you get.
The sharper skills get. Yeah.
So then after high school, I get married.
Who'd you get married to?
Okay, so I met this young gal in high school. Deb Gallagher was her name. She was a Fairbank girl, and met her in study hall. So back then in study hall, you had like 50 kids in a study hall. I mean, it was packed.
Yeah.
So one of my best friends was sitting at her table, which you had 6 kids at a table, and you're trying to study. Can you imagine having 6 kids? Anyway, so you have to raise your hand, and you have to get permission to go talk to your friend. And
okay.
I would always say, I need some help with school, work, and it's like, that wasn't it. No, because I wanted to go over and flirt with her, blah, blah. So that's how I met Deb. We started dating December 14th of her freshman year.
Still remembers the date. Holy cow.
But the thing of it was, she couldn't go out on a date until she was 16.
Sure.
So I had to go to her house a lot. And then finally, when she turned 16, we could go out on dates. And so we finally get married September 13th, her senior year. She graduates in May. We get married in September.
All right.
She's 18. I'm 21. That's not heard of nowadays.
No. No.
So then I started farming and milking cows. And she was a city gal. Didn't know a flick of nothing about what's going on the farm.
See, I would have never guessed that. She almost seems like she runs the farm out there.
Well, she thinks she does.
Oh, you just got yourself in trouble.
I know. I do that a lot.
Yeah, I would just assume that, she grew up, down the road from you or something.
No, she's a city slicker.
Wow.
I converted her into a farm wife.
Nice.
And she keeps me in the straight line. Don't get me wrong.
I like it.
And here we are right now.
So then what? Kids come after that as you guys start building the family.
Yeah, we have a son, and then we have 2 girls.
Okay.
And then so Trent was born first, and Kyla was born 5 years after, and then Meg was born 10 years after.
Right.
10 years after Kyla. So it's like we're sitting at the breakfast table, and and Deb comes out. She goes, "I'm pregnant." I'm going, and we're sitting
10 years after your last kid.
After our last one, and we're both. My jaw had to hit the table. It's like, okay, so here we are.
Wow.
So we're gonna have a late one, which was fine.
Sure.
And the thing of it is, it kept us young for so many years.
Yeah, got you back in the loop.
Got us back in the loop of the schools and all that stuff, and then. Actually, Meg and I were like really, really best friends because Trent would take her to the babysitter because I was milking cows, and then I would pick her up like at 9 o'clock in the morning when I got done with all my chores, and then we'd go to the feed store and she'd go in there and get a sucker all the time.
Yeah. And
then we'd come home and she was with me growing up till she got into school, which was like a year and a half.
Okay. So
it was. I had responsibility to raise her at that time also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it worked out great.
You got close.
Yeah.
Man, but 10 years, we waited. That's our, I'm not going to get on a soapbox here, but that's our stupid way of trying to like maintain control over those things is like Sarah, our kids are all 2 years apart, and then Grace is 4 years behind. And I blew up when she told me she was pregnant with Grace. And because we had family in town, so she didn't want to break the news while family was in town. She wanted to, get me alone. So we're driving from here over to Dunkerton for a church meeting for our Awana Kids Club. And she goes, now that I got you, I should probably tell you I'm pregnant again. And I'm like, and here I had almost went in and had a vasectomy after the third one. Because I was like, I got 3 kids before the age of 30. I'm good. But that Dr. Leo in Olwine, he made you make 2 appointments. You had to go in and talk to him, do a consultation, so you understood everything that was going to happen. And then if you still wanted to do it, and I remember him asking me, like, you got to make sure because, like, we're not going to want to ever undo this. And he goes, if you still want to go through with it, then you make the appointment. And at the time, it was around like 2008 or so when, the recession hit.
Right.
Omega had laid off for the first time ever in its history. And so I got this paper route. So here I'm delivering. I was the paper guy in Fairbank for a lot of years. And I'm delivering papers afternoons when I get home from work. I'm delivering them Saturday, Sunday morning. And this guy tells me, oh, yeah, you won't be on that bike delivering papers for a few weeks. It's going to be a little sensitive down there. So I was like, okay. So I put off the appointment and just never got back to it. And then Sarah says, you're pregnant. She springs it on me right before we walk into this meeting. And then my buddy Ryan Peterson just laughs right in my face, said, I knew you had one more in you. But looking back on it now, you're saying the same thing that I said. Like, that's why we named her Grace. Grace, the biblical definition for grace is getting something good that you don't deserve. That's when God gives you favor that you don't deserve. And so we named her Grace just to remind me. It's kind of a slap in the face to me, but it's also a reminder that, like, it may not have fit into our plans or may not have been what we expected or whatever, but it turned out so good that you just realize sometimes you don't got to be in control of everything. Let God do his thing. Yep. And roll with it.
Yeah, because you think you got your family set.
Yep.
And you're going to move forward with what you have, and then all of a sudden, it's
correct.
A lot of people call it. They say tail ender. Well, that's not true for us.
Right.
It just made us kept us younger longer.
Right.
And I think that's what's, being 70 and. People say that, you don't look like 70, you still keep up with everybody,
right?
And I think has a lot to do with it.
That was part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, when Meg brings the 2 grandkids out, which she has a girl and a boy, Charlie and Kennick, and they come out to the farm, Grandma's pretty well shot by the end of the day when they go home.
Time to put her feet up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's understandable for sure, man. But yeah, and I look at it too. I also say, like, when the last kid finally leaves the house, it's been a long time since husband and wife have been just them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And if you didn't take the time to go on dates or do things, they struggle. And sometimes they struggle to a point where they realize we don't even know if we love each other anymore. We don't know how to do this. So I'm constantly on Sarah saying, like, we better make sure we have this figured out, because by the time the last kid is gone, I don't want to be one of them. But when you have a kid later on, it kind of keeps you busy with life and raising a family and all that longer. So I can see how that definitely worked out for you guys.
And I will say one thing, being retired, it's a change of life, because
I'm sure
you got to realize that Deb and I were together all them years, just strictly farming and milking cows. We were there 24/7. Sometimes I would get odd jobs every once in a while in the summertime.
Yeah.
And then we quit milking, and we kind of get, I want to call them day jobs, or you got to punch a clock. Where she worked at the school. I worked at FECO and Owine for 11 years. And then all of a sudden now I'm retired and I'm at home. And so I'm going to say we've had a lot of discussing.
Getting back to just you two.
Just us two. And I finally have told her, you got to let me do things, or we're not going to get along here.
Right.
We got to
get figure it out.
We got to figure out how to get along again, because we're going to be together, a lot.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like.
Yeah. So
when's she thinking about retiring?
Oh, she's going to quit. She said after this year she's going to go back to works at Wapsie Valley.
One more year.
Works with the special needs kids.
Okay.
And she said one more year, and she's going to quit, which, well, I'll wait and see how she does. But, working with special need kids takes a special person.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And it's not all fun and games.
No.
And she comes home and she has to vent.
Sure.
A little bit. Well, should I say a lot?
Yeah.
And it's fine. That's what I'm there for.
That's right. Yeah.
But, and it's not easy to take care of them kids.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure not. But yeah, good teachers, good people in the school like that, they can have an impact on the kids for sure. You mentioned Coach Weaver, right?
Coach Weaver was my best friend.
Brock sat there, mentioned a few people. I mean, it has an impact.
Right.
So
Coach Southmay was right there too.
Yeah.
And back in the day he was a single man, and he helped me a lot. I wasn't the best student in school.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted to do when I got out of school. I wanted to farm.
Yeah. So
school was not a priority to me. Sports, I've been a sport nut forever.
Yeah.
And I'd get C's, I'd pass, but
right.
My worth ethic started from at home, obviously.
Yep, absolutely. That was I think you and me talked about it. They did a movie about that baseball team in Norway, Iowa before they consolidated. I guess they were the top dog in baseball.
Yeah, they were.
Even though they were a small town, they could beat just about anybody, it seemed like. Their coach was known, everything was known, and then, that was at the beginning of school starting to consolidate, so it was a new thing. Now we see it happen quite a bit. They have to do it for funding. They have to do it for multiple reasons. But they fought it and fought it and fought it, and there was a scene in that movie where, these kids are going to an away game, and this reporter's like documenting their final season as just Norway baseball, because after that they're going to combine with whoever. I don't know what the other town was.
I can't tell you either.
But they made a movie about it called The Final Season, and this reporter's on the bus, and the kids are mostly like sleeping, or they're just real mellow. They're not excited. They're not amped up. They're not nothing. And the reporter asks the coach, he's like, "Aren't you worried? Like, there's no emotion in these kids. They're not. Do they look like they are ready to play baseball? I mean, they're about to have a serious competition here, one of their toughest games yet." And he looks at him, he's like, "They're on a bus ride to a baseball game. They've already been up for 6 hours, done chores, did this, that, and the other. Like, this is the enjoyable part of the day for them." It goes back to that work ethic.
Right.
They put things in perspective, and I think it's just kind of a dying thing on the younger generation.
Well, and probably it's a relief from stress that they were riding the bus, because obviously they had worked all day.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, physically.
Yeah, they're
worked.
getting a little bit of rest in.
Exactly. I mean, it was nothing for when I was growing up to bale hay all day long and shut down at 4. We'd leave at 4 and then have to go play ball.
No way.
Oh yeah, I mean
Wow,
that's
I couldn't
just
have done it.
That's just the way it was.
I couldn't have done it.
So then you play ball for another 2 hours after that, then you come home. But that obviously, you know, we only played two nights a week. It's not like every night,
Sure.
every night like now.
But still, that hard work. I mean, it's either going to break you or it's going to make you better.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, you mentioned one thing. We're at like 45 minutes here, so we're doing good on time. You mentioned one thing about the Reedland Co-op, and I had a guest on recently. By the time this airs, this is going to be, you know, a few weeks after at least. But I did this big thing saying I had the biggest name ever coming on the podcast, and I was not deceiving people. I was misleading people. He did have the biggest name. He shares the same name as a famous actor. It's Matthew McConaughey. His dad had a trucking company back in the 60s, 70s, whatever, and he hauled water for the rain scene in the movie Country.
Oh, yeah.
And so we talked about the movie Country a little bit.
Right.
You're familiar, aren't you?
Yep.
Do you know why, even though the movie was like shot in Dunkerton and even had like a kid from Dunkerton in the movie,
Right.
why, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this, why did they not use the co-op in Dunkerton for some of their scenes? Why was it the Reedland Co-op? Do you remember?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, well, you got to help me get to the bottom of it. Talk to some of your friends. I'm going to talk to some people at church. We got to figure out what made if everything was shot in and around Dunkerton, why didn't they use the Dunkerton Co-op for the one scene that they shoot inside a co-op?
I don't know that answer. Obviously, you know, they shot the dance scene at Grumpy's at that event center.
Oh, was it?
That was where they shot that at.
I didn't know that. So they did more stuff in Reedland than just the co-op.
Oh,
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of starting to answer it.
Right.
I was thinking that was the only thing they did in Reedland.
No.
So it would be like, there's a perfectly good, but even then, there was a perfectly good community hall in Dunkerton with the wood floor, and
Well,
that would have.
I have no idea what the answer is.
Well, it's
to
good that they spread it out, but I'm going to have to find out. Did somebody say something like you ought to come over here, or I got to find out the answer to this.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, yeah, I think that covered about everything I wanted to. You got anything else in your notes for part one, your story, your childhood, any other words of wisdom? I think we...
Well, you know, it just growing up on the farm community is just huge. You know, I've always told Coach Davids, which he's a retired coach from Wapsie Valley, that you give me 11 farm boys against 11 city slickers that lift weights, and I'll guarantee you that when it comes to the end of a football game, we're still going to be going.
Yeah. That's it.
I've always said that. And another thing I would like to mention right now, and I hope this reaches out to a lot of the young athletes, is they don't drink enough milk.
Okay.
I've never have ever seen so many joint injuries that we've had in the last 10, 15 years as what we have now.
Okay.
Back then in the day, everybody drank milk. There wasn't such a thing as energy drinks or T-bombs or anything like that. I mean, there wasn't. You know,
Yeah.
You sat down and drank milk, which calcium just strengthens
what you need
your
for the bones, man.
and your joints.
Yeah.
I mean, we had injuries, but you know, it's like I've always told you when we at work, we just taped it up and went in.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
put some tape on there and get back in there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you're right. The milk. I mean, they got to drink milk at school. They're supposed to drink milk at school
Exactly.
anyway, a carton of milk.
I mean, we never had anything in the house when we were growing up except for milk. And on Sunday night, we could get a bottle of pop and a bowl of popcorn and watch Bonanza at 8:00.
Wow.
And then at 9:00 we had to go to bed.
I think that was a farming thing because I think you and me talked about that. Our friends, the Reardons, they always do popcorn for dinner on Sunday night. Like they don't make a meal. Like they have a big meal like probably after church, but then they have popcorn in the evening. And I was like, I think that's a farming thing. 'Cause
I
you
always
had
have
mentioned
popcorn every Sunday night.
that. Sunday night.
Every Sunday night.
Did you hear about this lineman challenge with the milk?
No.
So JJ comes home the other day, and he says, who's in charge of this challenge, James?
Just the kids.
The kid? No coach is behind it?
Well, City was there. But
Okay. So they all are supposed to grab a gallon of milk.
Okay.
And do you want to explain it, James? You want to come in and no? No, I tried. So they're supposed to all show up. I think it was on a Saturday. Show up with a gallon of milk. The linemen only. And it was like a challenge. Whoever can chug a gallon of milk the fastest is the winner. Well, the catch is most people can't do that. Most people end up throwing up. So then it's who gets the most of it down without throwing up, or who gets it down the fastest, without throwing up, or who has the least amount left once they've thrown up. And I'm just like, what are we doing here? That's the way, I guess, to get your calcium up. James does some research. He goes, they say almond milk is the best for chugging. So he shows up with a couple cartons of almond milk, comes home, says it tasted horrible. Grace goes to grab a glass of it that evening, and she says, this don't taste good. And I was like, I've had almond milk. It's not bad. And they even put like different flavors in it now. You can get like vanilla almond milk. But she goes, no, it tastes bad. Sarah and she looks at the expiration date. It expires in like 5 days.
Oh, it doesn't last very long.
And I was like, that's usually, I don't know about that. Sarah, you try it. She tried it. She goes, yeah, it's pretty sour. So, if you're gonna get your calcium up, you're gonna start drinking more milk. Just stick with the regular stuff.
Yeah,
a couple glasses a day, and don't try and drink a gallon of it, and you'll be just fine.
Well, I still drink a lot of milk even now.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't know about I've noticed more cramps within the Wapsie program, not just football in general, but like it seems like the years I've watched of football, we all of our backs they go down with cramps, like sometimes multiple times a game. And I get it, it's hot, I get it, it's humid, but the sport hasn't changed. Like there's a few things to prevent cramps for the most part.
But they're not hydrating during the day. Do they drink water?
I would think their coaches are smart guys. They got to be telling them, hey, drink water, have some bananas. Our lunchroom always made sure to put out like the half-sliced bananas.
Right.
On game days or even Thursdays and Fridays, and we were a terrible program, which we'll get into in your part 2.
So do they take salt tablets after practice?
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. We always had pickle juice as well.
We had salt tablets that you took after every practice.
Okay, there you go, kids. Mike's telling you, get on some salt tablets.
Well, it was in a dispenser. It was right there
in the locker room.
In the locker room.
Okay.
So you take 2 or 3 of them salt tablets after practice every day. You never had any cramps.
Okay.
I have cramps right now at my age because a lot of it's the caffeine that I drink coffee.
Sure. Yeah.
Or if I have sodas.
Yeah.
And I'd go home at night and try to get to sleep, and all of a sudden, you jump out of bed and you get a cramp. It's like from hell.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And but a lot of it is because of they don't have enough salt.
Yeah.
Iodine in their system.
Okay.
But
because why? Because Michelle Obama took all the bad food, the salty food out of our...
Exactly.
You do need some sodium.
Exactly.
We do.
But when you're younger, when you sweat that much, you need that to put it back in there somehow.
Right.
And not with energy drinks, not with all this other crap that's going on out there.
Sure.
So
I got you.
But,
okay. There we go. Man, we just solved some problems there. I mean, the fitness world and nutrition world has long passed us by, but there you go. Mike says, get some more sodium in your diet. Maybe kids won't be laying on the ground. Our trainer stretches out more hamstrings than I've ever seen.
I agree with you 100%.
She must be good at it. So, all right, man. Well, I think that'll about do it for part 1 with Mike Buenzow. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. This was a fun discussion. We went back in time a little bit. It's kind of like opening a time capsule, growing up on the farm. Old school Wapsie stories, slow pitch softball, which I still stand by. I think I could play. If my son-in-law said his brother, who runs the team, if he called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, we're short a guy. We need you in Fairbank at the dime," I think I could go. I think I could hit. I don't think I could throw that well because I got some pinched nerve issues and it doesn't quite work right. But I know I could hit, run, catch fly ball. I'm pretty sure. So put me in, coach. I'm ready. So But I never did your thing. I never did fast pitch softball. No way. Couldn't do it. That took talent. Slow pitch doesn't take much talent.
Well, let me give you a little clue, Bubba, since you're how old are you?
43.
43. So what you think you can do, and your mind's telling you think you can do, but your body is going to say, don't do it. Trust me.
It hurts the day after.
It hurts.
Does.
Trust me.
It does.
I've been there and done that.
We still do that Thanksgiving Day football game. And last year I noticed before the game was over, I was already hurting. And that's never happened before. Usually it's that night or the next day. I was popping ibuprofen when we walked off the field. I was like, oh, this ain't going to be good. But, so I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So anyway, you tell me about slow pitch softball. I'm going to tell you this little secret.
Oh, here we go.
I was 44 years old, and my boy lives down in Cedar Rapids. He lives down in Cedar Rapids, and he played slow pitch softball. And they were short a player.
Okay.
So he calls me up. He goes, Dad, you want to play a game? He goes, we need somebody to play. I go, sure. Well, I didn't have no uniforms. I didn't have no socks or nothing. So I put a pair of sweatpants on, And Deb and I go down there, and we get down there, So I'm going to be the catcher.
Okay.
Because the old
least
timer.
amount of movement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we get down there, and they had to forfeit the game because they didn't have me on the roster, so they didn't have enough players. I'm going, are you effing kidding me?
Are you serious?
Yeah, so we just played a fun game with the team anyway. So let me tell you, the next day I hurt so gosh darn bad it wasn't even funny.
Putting ointment on all over.
Oh, my goodness sakes alive. So that's why I'm telling you. You think you can do it, but the next day.
Your mind says you can. Your body says you're going to pay for it.
It's a good thing you have a sit-down job now at Lifeline because you would be sitting a long time.
I worked out the other day. I worked out in the front of my hips. I don't know what that is. Hip flexor or abductor muscle. It's so sore that when you sit in your office chair and then you try and stand up, you're stretching that muscle. Oh, man. It's bad.
Okay.
Getting old. Okay. That's it for part 1 with Mike Buenzow. We could do this all day. I hope it encouraged you guys. I want to encourage you to like, follow, subscribe the podcast. Go on Facebook and Instagram. Follow us there. We're doing giveaways. We got merchandise. We got shirts, hats. We got all kinds of stuff to sell you. If you want to rep us, just hit us up on social media. Okay, we're always doing fun stuff on there. Share it with all your friends. That's how this thing is getting bigger. I'm getting asked all the time now. Different things, different ideas. Send me an email at whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. If you want to be a guest, if you got an idea for a future topic, or you got a comment or a complaint, maybe you didn't like something Mike said and you want to air it out, I'll give you some airtime. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you really think. Tell me what is up. I appreciate you guys listening. Be sure and join us next week, part 2 with Mike Buenzow. We're going to get into his segments. He picked out some really, really good ones. We're going to go to the specific high school glory days. We're going to put him on the spot with some Gen Z slang. You know Mike doesn't know anything about how kids talk these days. We're also going to ask him about what would he do if he had $1 billion? What if money was no object to him? Well, I kind of don't think it is right now, but he's also going to go deep in a conversation about the Jordan Childs Olympic medal controversy. Yeah, that's still hot and heavy right now. I think they pretty much took it from her. So join us next week, part 2 with Mike Buenzow. I appreciate you guys listening. Lord willing, I'll talk to you on the next one.